My mom let my criminal brother steal from me, damage my car, and hijack my graduation. Now he's in jail, and she's begging for my help, but I cut her off. I, 28M, grew up knowing exactly where I stood in my family, the backup plan. My older brother could have murdered someone, and my mom would have framed it as him having a bad day. Meanwhile, I was the one who got a lecture for leaving a light on in the kitchen. It wasn't even subtle. My brother was the golden child, and I was the one who needed to do better. It didn't matter what I achieved. When I got straight as, it was, well, your brother never had to try that hard to do well. When I got a scholarship to college, it was, good for you, but don't let it get to your head. Meanwhile, my brother was stealing money from her purse, and somehow still getting a pat on the back. She'd say, he's just going through a lot right now, like that excused everything. By the time I was old enough to move out, I was done trying to win her approval. I put myself through college with 2 jobs and 0 help from her. She wouldn't even co-sign a student loan for me, but she found money to bail my brother out of jail after his second DUI. One time, he showed up at my apartment, completely uninvited, and just started crashing on my couch. No warning, no asking. He was between places. According to my mom, which was code 4, he burned another bridge. When I told her he couldn't stay, she flipped out. She said I was selfish, ungrateful, and that I didn't understand the importance of family. I kicked him out anyway. Then there was the time he borrowed my car without asking and returned it with scratches all over it. When I confronted him, my mom stepped in and said he needed it for something important, and you're being petty. She didn't even offer to help pay for the damage. But the final straw for me was my college graduation. I was the first person in our family to graduate, and it should have been a big deal. I worked my ass off for it, juggling classes and jobs just to make it happen. But when the day came, it wasn't about me. It was about him. During the ceremony, my mom barely acknowledged me. Instead, she kept telling everyone how my brother was finally turning his life around after getting out of rehab. She even insisted on taking a family photo with him in the center, like he was the one graduating. When I refused, she called me petty again and said, "You'll have plenty of accomplishments to celebrate in the future." I left early and didn't look back. My brother's life was a series of disasters. He had a knack for finding new ways to screw up, and my mom always had a knack for finding new ways to excuse it. His latest screw-up was the biggest yet. He got arrested for running some shady pyramid scheme that scammed people out of thousands. This wasn't a slap-on-the-wrist situation. He was facing serious prison time. And because my mom couldn't help herself, she'd co-signed on some of his loans. When his business fell apart, so did her finances. She was drowning in debt and on the verge of losing her house. That's when she called me. She didn't even start with small talk. It was straight to, "Your brother made a mistake, and I need your help." What kind of help? I need money. The lawyer's fees are insane, and I can't cover all the debt myself. If we don't act fast, I'll lose the house. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to see how far she'd go. She kept talking. "You've got a good job now, and I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't important. This is your family. This is your brother." I finally spoke. "What happens if I don't help?" There was a long pause before she said, "What do you mean?" "I mean, what happens if he just deals with the consequences? He got himself into this mess. Why is it my responsibility to clean it up?" Her tone changed instantly. "Don't be so cold. He's your brother. He needs you right now. I need you. Family sticks together." "Funny how that only applies when you want something from me," I said. She started crying. "Do you want me to lose my house? Do you want your brother to rot in jail? How can you be so heartless?" I hung up. The next day, she called again. This time, she wasn't crying. She was angry. "You're doing so well for yourself, and you can't even help out your own family? After everything I've done for you?" "Done for me?" I asked. "Like what?" "Like raising you. Like putting a roof over your head. Like making sure you had food to eat." "That's called parenting," I said. "It's the bare minimum." She lost it. She started yelling about how ungrateful I was, how I'd always been selfish, how I didn't understand what it meant to be part of a family. I hung up again. That's when she started calling the rest of the family, telling them her version of the story. According to her, I was the villain. I was the selfish son who abandoned his struggling mother and brother. It didn't take long for the calls and texts to start rolling in. Some relatives asked me what was going on. Others just jumped straight to shaming me. But I wasn't about to let her control the narrative. I sent out a group email to everyone, laying out the facts. Her enabling, her favoritism, her financial decisions, and my brother's never-ending trail of disasters. I even attached screenshots of texts and photos of the damage he'd done over the years, including my scratched-up car. Most of the family stayed out of it, but a few reached out to apologize for believing her lies. One cousin said, "I always wondered why she treated you differently, but I didn't want to get involved. I'm sorry." My mom didn't take the public humiliation well. A week later, she showed up at my workplace unannounced. She stood in the lobby, crying and shouting about how I was abandoning her and ruining the family. My coworkers were confused, and I was mortified. I had security escort her out. Then I filed a no-contact order. That night, I sent her one last message. "If you ever pull a stunt like that again, I'll make sure you face legal consequences. This is your only warning." She didn't reply. A few weeks later, she tried a new tactic. She sent me a long, rambling letter in the mail. It was full of guilt-tripping and backhanded compliments, the kind of thing only she could pull off. "You've always been so independent," she wrote. "So strong. I knew you didn't need as much attention as your brother. That's why I focused on him more. He needed me, but you were my rock. My rock." That was rich. She went on to say how hard it was to raise 2 kids on her own, conveniently forgetting how I was the one who practically raised myself while she bailed my brother out of trouble, and how much she regretted not showing me more appreciation. Then, at the very end of the letter, she slipped in her real reason for writing. She needed $20,000. I crumpled the letter and threw it in the trash. For a while I thought, that was the end of it. But my mom wasn't done. She started showing up at family gatherings she knew I'd be attending, trying to corner me in front of other relatives. At one Thanksgiving dinner, she made a scene when I ignored her. She stood up and shouted, "I can't believe my own son would treat me like this. After everything I've sacrificed for him." Everyone went silent. I didn't say anything at first, but then she added, "You think you're better than us now, don't you? You think your fancy job and your fancy apartment make you better than your family." I finally spoke. "No, I don't think I'm better. I think I'm done. Done cleaning up after your messes. Done being your backup plan. And done pretending this family is something it's not." She stormed out, and the rest of the family awkwardly tried to move on with dinner. Months passed without any contact. Then one day, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was my mom. "Please, I'm desperate," she said. "I'm going to lose the house if I don't come up with the money. I don't have anywhere else to go. Please, you're my last hope." I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I wasn't moved. "What about my brothers?" I asked. "Can't he help you?" She hesitated. "He's not in a position to help right now." "Of course he's not," I said. "He never is. And you've spent your whole life covering for him. Now it's time for him to deal with the consequences of his actions. I'm not bailing him out. Or you." She started crying. "I'm your mother. How can you turn your back on me like this?" "You turned your back on me a long time ago," I said. "Now you're just facing the fallout." I hung up for the last time. She lost the house. My brother went to jail. And I moved on with my life. There were moments when I felt guilty, but then I remembered all the times she'd let me down, all the times she'd chosen him over me, all the times she'd expected me to pick up the pieces of their messes. I realized that family isn't about blood. It's about mutual respect and support, and she'd never given me either. Now, when I tell people about my family, I keep it short. I tell them I have a mom and a brother, but I don't have a relationship with them. And I don't plan to. Some people don't understand. They say, "But she's your mom. How can you just cut her off?" And I say, because she made her choice a long time ago. Now I'm making mine.